الحمد لله الذي هدى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله وأصحابه الذين اجتبى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان فمن شهد منكم الشهر فليصم ومن كان مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر يريد الله بكم اليسر ولا يريد بكم العسر ولتكملوا العدة ولتكبروا الله على ما هداكم ولعلكم تشكرون وإذا سألك عبادي عني فإني قريب أجيب دعوة الداع إذا دعان فليستجيبوا لي وليؤمنوا بي لعلهم يرشدون صدق الله العظيم. In part of this series that we were talking about, which is the series of our ancestors, and we were talking about Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq Radiyallahu Anhu, and how during his time they had to face the challenges, and finally when they took over one of the big challenges, which was fighting Musaylamatul Kadhab, the person who claimed the prophethood, and the person with the largest army against Islam, other than the two superpowers, the Roman and the Persian Empire. I mentioned last week that when Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een turned around from this battle, they realized that they have lost about 700 of those who were Huffaz al-Quran, who had memorized the Quran. Losing 700 people at the same time of the Huffaz, out of 1,200 people that were murdered in that battle of Yamama, 700 were those who were considered the scholars among Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, and Huffaz among the Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'een, who have memorized the Quran and learned the meanings of Quran. They used to call them, they have a word for them, they used to call them Al-Qurra. Umar Radiyallahu Anhu went to Abu Bakr Radiyallahu Anhu and said, Abu Bakr, we have to compile the Quran, because if we keep on losing people in this way, God forbid, a time might come that people won't have anyone who knows the Quran by heart. So we have to prepare people to memorize Quran. Here we have to remember another point. It wasn't that there were only 700 people or there were about only 1,000 people who knew the Quran by heart. There were thousands of them. But the fear of Umar Radiyallahu Anhu was, we are conquering many lands now. We are getting into many other towns now. In each and every town that we take over, we need one scholar and one hafiz, so that that person can teach the rest of the people Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we don't have enough people for each and every town in every country that we conquer. Just to get an idea, of how Sahaba Ridwanullahi alayhi majma'in were into memorizing Quran during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you go and open up any book of hadith, well-known books of hadith, 6 authentic books of hadith, each of them has some of these hadiths that says that a Sahabiya was offered to be married, and she put a condition that I will marry the person under a condition that this person would teach me some Quran. The condition from the Muslim woman at that time was that I need the person who knows some Quran by heart and he can make me memorize the Quran. That's the condition for getting married to the person. Look how values change. Nowadays, this question never even comes in mind, that does this person even knows how to read Quran or not? It's not a question to be asked or to be considered nowadays. What are the degrees? How much he earns? What type of job he has? What are the future plans? Simply means what type of bread is he going to feed the girl? And how much is she going to eat? 2 pizzas or 3 pizzas? If he's going to feed her 3 pizzas, then we'll go for that one. He has more pizzas. If he's going to feed her in an expensive restaurant, then this is the person we are looking for. And we never even ask if he even knows how to recite the kalima. And in many of these situations, we all know that good Muslim girls are married to those who don't even know how to recite Al-Fatiha. And now the problem comes is, she says, I know more than you, and he says, I don't want to learn from my wife. Sahabiyat were putting this condition. The Muslim girls at that time were putting the condition, I'll marry the person under the condition he has to know the Quran by heart and he teaches me the Quran after marriage. This is the condition of getting married to the person. I don't want to change the subject, but one more thing that I remembered from the hadith at this point. Something very amazing, and we can never even think that something of this kind can exist in the history. It says that when a Sahabi used to leave home in the morning, the wife would tell him that please keep in mind that don't bring a single penny of haram into this home. Go and look for a work. Try to earn. If you don't find any halal mean of earning, don't bring nothing. We'll starve to death, but we will not eat anything that is haram. Number 2, make sure after work, before coming back home, go to the masjid of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Learn all the new revelations that were revealed today. And come and teach us, and after you would teach us, then we'll have the dinner together. An advice from a wife to the husband. Every morning, a reminder. Just like an alarm clock beeps in our homes. They used to beep with these words into the mind of their husbands, so the husband will realize, I don't want to get out there in the haram. I don't want to bring a penny of haram. I don't want to feed my children the flames of fire of the hellfire. I'd rather bring something halal, or we will starve. It won't matter. And at the end of the day, no matter how tired that person is, has to go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, learn all the new verses of Quran that were revealed on that day, all the new orders of Islam that was given that day, will come back home, teach his family, and then they will have the dinner together. So I was mentioning, this is how important memorization of Quran was in those days, that Sahabiyat were putting these conditions for getting married. Also at the same time, if we look into the history, and not history really, we look into the hadith, we find out that there was a Sahabi, a young person, Amr bin Salama. The hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. He says that we used to live by one of the wells close to our town. And we children used to play around that well. That well was on the main road where normally the people who are traveling would stop there for getting their water. He said at that time I wasn't a Muslim, but many Muslim groups were just passing by. They would stop by that well. And they would spend about some time there, you know, when a traveler stays there for half an hour, an hour. After some time, he said, my clan decided to become Muslim. So I was also with them, and we went all together to become Muslim. I was with my father. Once we became Muslim, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, I'm going to assign one of you people to lead the salah. And I would assign the person who have memorized the most of the Holy Quran. So who is that person? So every person started saying, Ya Rasulullah, within these 2-3 days that we spend with you, I memorized this much. The other person will say, I memorized this much. I said, Ya Rasulullah, I know almost the whole of it. So he asked me, how did you learn it? And when did you memorize it? I said, Ya Rasulullah, these different clans that are traveling, and they stop by the well by our town, they keep on reciting the Quran all the time. By hearing it all the time from those people, I memorized it. This tells us how much they used to recite the Quran. That these groups are staying over there. They are in the transit. They are on their way, just staying over there for half an hour, for an hour, and they are reciting so much of Quran that children playing around them, they memorize the Quran just by listening to these people reciting it all the times. Abu Darda Radiyallahu Anhu says, during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in Medina Munawwara, whenever a new person would come to Medina, we would assign one of the Sahaba to teach him Quran. He said after some time the masjid was crowded with those people who are learning and teaching Quran, so much so that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam had to tell us that please keep your voice low, because there are so many groups. You don't want one group started hearing the voices of another group and learning it from there and mix up the ayahs. Therefore keep your voice low as you can. Of course within the group they have to raise the voice, but as low as you can. The masjid was crowded by those who are learning and teaching Quran. And here is a child who's memorizing Quran just by hearing it from others, and he's not even a Muslim at that time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran says about Quran that the main way of preserving Quran, of course he tells us, إِنَّا نَحْنُ نَزَّلْنَا الذِّكْرَ وَإِنَّا لَهُ لَحَافِظُونَ. We are the one who revealed it, and we are the protectors of it. Very amazing fact. There are some copies of the Quran that were written during the time of Uthman Radiyallahu Anhu, and they still exist up to this day. Take a person from America, another person from England, another person from India and Pakistan, another person from Africa, another person from one of the Arab countries. Bring all of these people together, make them recite Quran, they will be reciting the same thing word by word without making any changes. If one person will correct the others, he will know that, okay, one of us is right, both of us cannot be right. We have the same copy of the Quran throughout the world. And compare all of these people's recitation with that book of Uthman Radiyallahu Anhu that exists up to this day. You will find out that it's the same Quran.